Every riding mower that gets towed into a repair shop is almost always broken by the exact same 5 things. Shops know it, they just don't lead with it, because the diagnostic fee gets charged either way. So why does a $200 bill keep landing on your kitchen table for a fix that takes 10 minutes and costs nothing? My name is Gary Holt. I ran a small engine repair shop off Route 9 for 34 years before I closed the doors last spring. In that time, I saw close to 9,000 mowers roll through that garage door. Riding mowers mostly, some push mowers, a few tillers mixed in. And here is the truth I never said out loud to a customer in 34 years, because saying it would have put me out of business faster than I wanted to close it myself. Most of what came in broken was not really broken, not in the way people thought. I remember the exact mower that taught me this. A green and yellow rider, maybe 8 years old, towed in on a trailer by a man named Curtis, who had already decided the engine was shot. He told me that straight out. Said his neighbor looked at it and said the engine was done, that it would cost more to fix than it was worth. I hooked it up, turned the key, and got nothing. Not a click, not a groan, nothing at all. Curtis was already talking about which new mower he was going to buy that weekend. I popped the seat up, looked at the battery, and there it was. Corrosion built up so thick on the positive terminal that it looked like a little gray coral reef growing out of the post. I took a wire brush to it for maybe 90 seconds, turned the key again, engine caught on the first try. Curtis stood there in my garage, not saying a word for a good 10 seconds. Then he asked me how much he owed me. I told him nothing. He'd already paid me plenty just by being embarrassed enough to tell 3 of his neighbors about it. And 2 of those neighbors ended up on my customer list inside the same month. Both of them convinced their mowers were dying too. Quick word before I go further. The old methods my family uses, there is more of it than fits in any one video. I gathered the whole of it into a book you can buy in our pinned comment below. The book is the long version. If you want it, it is there. I will not mention it again. Story with Curtis was not rare. It was Tuesday, it was Wednesday. It happened so often that after about my 5th year in the shop, I started keeping a little notebook by the register, and every single repair ticket, I wrote down what actually fixed the mower, not what the customer thought was wrong, what I actually found and what I actually did. 10 years and change into keeping that notebook, I sat down one winter and added it all up. Out of every mower that came in not starting, not running right, or dying halfway through a job, the same 5 things showed up again and again. A dead or corroded battery connection, a blown fuse, a dirty or fouled spark plug, gas that had gone bad sitting in the tank, or a safety switch that was dirty, loose, or misaligned. Those 5 things, not the engine. There was another one, a woman named Linda, who called me convinced her transmission had gone out because the blades wouldn't spin no matter how many times she pulled the lever. She'd already gotten a quote from a bigger dealership across town, $400 and change to pull the deck and rebuild the clutch assembly. Took me about 4 minutes to find a seat switch connector packed with dried grass and a hairline crack in the plastic housing, letting moisture in every time it rained. I cleaned the contacts, wrapped the connector in a little electrical tape to keep it dry, and the blades engaged like the mower was brand new. Linda drove off, having spent less than the diagnostic fee alone would have cost her at that dealership. Stories like hers and Curtis's are not the exception in this business. They are most of the business, not the transmission, not some deep mechanical failure that needed a mechanic's hands and a mechanic's tools. 5 small, cheap, almost embarrassing things. So here's the question worth sitting with for a second. If the same 5 things are breaking 9 out of 10 riding mowers in this country, why does almost nobody know to check them before they load the mower on a trailer? The answer is not complicated, and it's not some big conspiracy either. It's simpler than that, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. A repair shop makes its money on the diagnostic fee and the labor, not on the part. When a customer calls and says their mower won't start, the shop doesn't say, "Hey, before you tow it in, go check your battery terminals." Why would they? That's a diagnostic charge, usually somewhere between $60 and $90 around here, walking right out the door before it ever gets rung up. So, the mower gets towed in, sits in the queue for a few days, and eventually somebody like me pops the seat, finds the corrosion or the blown fuse, cleans it or swaps it in under 15 minutes, and the ticket still reads full diagnostic shop fee and a small parts charge if a switch or a fuse needed replacing. Add it up, and a repair that cost the shop $1 in parts and a quarter hour of labor can land on a bill anywhere from $85 to $150. I'm not saying every shop is crooked. Most of the guys I know in this business are honest and hardworking, and they earn every dollar on the repairs that really do need a lift and a torque wrench. But the business itself is built So the easy fix and the expensive fix get billed about the same. Nobody's rushing to change that. I saw the same pattern play out with mowers that died mid-mow, halfway through a Saturday afternoon job, engine just quitting cold in the middle of the yard. That one sounds like a blown engine to most folks, and I've had customers ready to trade the whole machine in over it. 9 times out of 10, it was a fuel filter clogged with the same varnish that old ethanol gas leaves behind. A $2 part sitting in a fuel line most owners have never once looked at. Here's the part that flips the whole thing on its head though. The more dramatic a mower problem sounds, the more likely the actual cause is small and free. A mower that cranks but won't start sounds like an engine problem. It's usually gas or a plug. A mower that just clicks and does nothing sounds like the whole electrical system is fried. It's usually a 12-cent fuse or a corroded terminal. A mower that starts fine but the blades won't engage sounds like a transmission or a clutch. Half the time it's a safety switch with a little corrosion on the contacts. The scarier it sounds, the cheaper it usually is. That's backwards from how we think about almost anything else. And that's exactly why it fools so many people, including plenty of folks who've owned the same mower for 10 years. Let me walk you through the 5 things, in the order I'd check them myself, starting with the one that takes the least time, and working toward the one that takes the longest. There's no special trick to the order beyond common sense. Check the cheap, fast stuff first, and you'll solve most mowers before you ever get to the last item on the list. First is what I call the fuse check. Most riding mowers built in the last 25 years have a small blade fuse tucked either near the battery or under the dash panel by the steering column. It looks just like the fuses in your car. If your mower does absolutely nothing when you turn the key, no click, no light, nothing, pull that fuse and hold it up to the light. If the little metal strip inside is broken, that's your whole problem. A replacement costs about $1 at any hardware store, and you can carry a spare in the glove box of your truck for the rest of your life. If you own a cheap multimeter, the kind you can pick up for about $15, you can test the fuse without even pulling it, but your eyes work just as well most of the time. 2 minutes, $1, or free if you've already got a spare kicking around a junk drawer. Second is the terminal scrub, and this one fixed more mowers in my shop than anything else on this list. Pop the seat, look at both battery terminals. If you see white, gray, or greenish buildup crusted around the posts, that's corrosion, and it acts like a wall between the battery and the rest of the electrical system. Mix a spoonful of baking soda with a little water, dip an old toothbrush in it, and scrub both terminals until the metal shines. Rinse it off, dry it, and tighten the connections back down snug. Corrosion doesn't just cause a dead no-click situation either. Sometimes it just weakens the connection enough that your headlights look dim, or the starter cranks slow and tired, and folks read that as a dying battery when the battery itself is perfectly healthy underneath the buildup. 5 minutes, and the only cost is baking soda you already own. Third is the switch test, and this is the one almost nobody checks because they don't even know it's there. Riding mowers have safety switches wired into the seat, the brake pedal, and sometimes the blade engagement lever. Their whole job is to stop the engine from starting or running if you're not sitting down or the brake isn't pressed. Over time, dirt, grass clippings, and moisture get into those switch contacts, and the connection gets weak or intermittent. You won't be able to see this one with your eyes most of the time. What you can do is find the wiring connector at each switch. The seat switch is usually tucked under the seat pan. The brake switch sits near the pedal linkage, and the blade or PTO switch is somewhere around the dash or the lift lever. Unplug the connector by hand and spray a little electrical contact cleaner into both sides, then plug it back in firmly. A can of contact cleaner runs about $6 and lasts through dozens of these. If you don't have any on hand, a few short bursts from a can of compressed air will at least clear out loose debris and moisture in a pinch. That alone clears up more no-start and no-engage problems than people expect. I want to be straight with you here. Do not jump or bypass a safety switch to force the mower to run. Those switches exist, so the blades don't spin up while you're not in the seat, and getting hurt by a running mower is not worth saving 20 minutes. Clean the connection. Don't defeat it. Fourth is the gas gut check, and this is the one that surprises people the most. Regular gas with ethanol in it starts breaking down in about 30 days. It absorbs moisture from the air, and it leaves behind a sticky varnish that gums up the tiny passages inside your carburetor. If your mower sat all winter with gas still in the tank, or even just sat for a month over a rainy stretch, that old gas is very likely your problem, especially if it cranks and almost catches, but won't stay running. Drain the tank, And this part matters. Drain the carburetor bowl too, if you know where the little drain screw is, and refill with fresh gas. If you want to stop this from happening again, a bottle of fuel stabilizer, something like Stabil, costs around $8 and keeps a full tank fresh for up to 2 years, sitting still, even with ethanol gas in it. 15 minutes of work, $8 if you want to prevent the repeat. Fifth is the filter peak. Pull the air filter housing open, usually 1 or 2 clips, and look at the filter itself. If it's packed with dust and grass fluff to where you can't see light through it, your engine's been starving for air, which shows up as rough running, stalling, or a mower that just won't rev up right. A foam filter you can wash out with dish soap and let air dry, completely free. Though if yours is the oiled foam type, a small bottle of foam filter oil for about $5 will get it back to spec. A paper filter you can tap out gently against your palm to knock loose debris, and if it's really packed or torn, a new one runs about $8. I check this one at the start of every mowing season, at minimum, 10 minutes either way. Fuse, terminals, switches, gas, filter. Those 5 things, checked in that order, solve the overwhelming majority of what stops a riding mower cold. I watched it hold true for over 3 decades and about 9,000 mowers, and I've got no reason to think it's changed since I hung up my coveralls. And here's a piece of it that trips people up in the other direction. When a mower's acting up, plenty of folks reach for a fix that has nothing to do with any of this. They dump in a bottle of fuel additive without draining the old gas first, or they top off the oil thinking more is better, or they crank the key over and over, hoping it just needs a little persistence. None of that touches a corroded terminal or a dirty switch contact. It just burns time and sometimes makes things worse, like flooding a fouled plug by cranking it 15 times in a row. The fix isn't more effort. It's checking the right 5 things in the right order before you touch anything else. Here's what I want you to sit with though, because it goes past the mower. Every dollar you hand over for a diagnostic on a problem you could have found yourself in 15 minutes is a dollar that didn't go toward the mortgage, or the kids, or just staying home on a Saturday instead of hauling a trailer to a shop 3 weeks backed up. Run those 5 checks once a season, and you're looking at maybe $25 a year in baking soda, a spare fuse, a can of contact cleaner, and fuel stabilizer. Against what could easily be 2 or 3 shop visits at $100 or more apiece if you let the small stuff turn into a tow. That's real money. Over the life of a mower you'll likely own for a decade or longer. It's not just the money either. It's the Saturday you get back. It's not standing in a shop parking lot waiting on a callback that might not come for 3 weeks during the busy season. My father used to say that the men who kept the most money in their pocket weren't the ones who worked the hardest. They were the ones who knew what was actually wrong before they ever picked up a wrench or wrote a check. That stuck with me my whole career, even standing on the other side of the counter charging for my time. There's a kind of quiet pride, too, in popping that seat yourself, finding the problem with your own 2 hands, and having that mower running again before your coffee's gone cold. I taught my own boy those same 5 checks before he was tall enough to reach the seat without a step stool, and he's teaching his daughter the same thing now on a mower, 3 counties away from where I ever worked on one. That's worth something. You can't put a price tag on. So here's what I want you to do tonight, or first thing this weekend if it's dark out right now. Go pop the seat on that mower, even if it's running fine today. Look at those battery terminals for any buildup. Check that fuse against the light. Smell the gas in the tank. And if it smells sour or like old varnish instead of fresh fuel, that tank needs draining before you need it to start on a Saturday morning with the whole lawn waiting on you. Wiggle the seat switch connector and give it a shot of contact cleaner if you've got it. None of this needs a mechanic's toolbox. A wire brush, a screwdriver, and 15 minutes is the whole job, and most of it costs you nothing but the time. Tell me down in the comments which one of these 5 turned out to be your problem, and how long it actually took you once you knew where to look. I read every single one, and I'd bet real money it's the terminals or the gas more often than anything else on that list. Next time, I'm going to show you the one $6 part that kills more mower engines than every other failure combined, and the 30-second habit that stops it from ever happening to yours.